Stop what you are doing. Do not scroll past. Do not minimize this moment. This is not an accident. This is not the algorithm guessing your interest. This is a summons, a divine appointment scheduled before you were aware of the need. You were selected for this moment, and selection carries jurisdiction. The gavel has already fallen. The trial is already over. The verdict has been issued. If you can hear this, then heaven has already called your case. Right now, in this very second, the courtroom is not debating your worth. It is enforcing your release. Psalm 124:7 declares it plainly. We have escaped like a bird from the snare of the fowler. The snare is broken, and we have escaped. Escape is not future tense. It is present enforcement. You have not been scrolling. You have been escorted. And this message does not begin at the beginning, because the case did not start today. It started the moment you began losing sleep over bills. The moment you checked your account before checking your heart. The moment pressure became routine and anxiety became background noise. That is when the case was filed. You know the symptoms. Sleepless nights. Mental math that never ends. The weight in your chest when another bill arrives. The quiet embarrassment of delay. The exhaustion of always catching up and never getting ahead. You have been faithful but stretched, responsible but restricted, working but waiting. And you were told directly or indirectly that this was your fault. That if you had planned better, prayed harder, worked longer, things would be different. That accusation has just been thrown out of court, because the judge of all the earth does not rule on opinions. He rules on evidence. And the evidence says this: you were targeted. John 10:10 is entered into the record. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. Steal first, always steal first. Steal peace, steal time, steal momentum, steal resources. That theft is not metaphorical, it is measurable. But here is what the enemy did not count on: theft activates restitution law. Proverbs 6:31 stands as binding legal code. When the thief is found, he must repay sevenfold, though it costs him all the wealth of his house. This is not poetry, this is statute, and statutes are enforced, not debated. You are not asking for mercy, you are receiving enforcement. That is why this word carries urgency, not emotional urgency, legal urgency. Because once a verdict is issued, delay becomes illegal. Amos 9:13 confirms acceleration. The plowman overtakes the reaper. That is not natural sequence. That is court-ordered speed. Hear this clearly: within the next 72 hours, pressure will begin to lift. Not all at once, but enough to prove jurisdiction has shifted. Enough to remind you that you are no longer under siege. In the next 3 days, you will notice a change in how obstacles respond to you. Resistance will weaken. Doors will answer faster. Conversations will resolve differently. That is not coincidence. That is enforcement in motion. And some of you chosen for immediate confirmation will see tangible movement within 24 hours. A call, a message, a release, a solution that was unavailable yesterday. Why? Was because Psalm 56:8 records that your tears were counted. Evidence was logged. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was ignored. Now the court addresses the stress itself. Financial stress is not just lack. It is prolonged uncertainty. It is living without margin. It is the inability to rest even when you stop working. And Hebrews 4 establishes rest as a legal inheritance. If rest is promised, then stress is trespassing, which means stress is being evicted. Right now, by higher authority, stress is losing jurisdiction over your mind, your sleep, your decisions. Philippians 4:6-7 is enforced, be anxious for nothing. That is not a suggestion. That is a command backed by peace that surpasses understanding. You are not irresponsible for feeling overwhelmed. You are not weak for feeling tired. You are not faithless for wanting relief. You were under attack, and the attack has been identified. That identification matters because guilt has no standing once the culprit is named. Romans 8:1 removes condemnation from the record. The case is no longer about what you did wrong. It is about what was done to you. Now listen carefully. God does not end financial stress by giving you just enough to survive. He ends it by changing the pattern entirely. Deuteronomy 28 does not promise scraping by. It promises lending and not borrowing, head and not tail, above and not beneath. Those are positions, not amounts. This is why time restitution is part of the ruling. Joel 2:25 is not symbolic. I will restore the years the locust has eaten. Years, not dollars. Years of delay, years of survival mode, years of potential postponed. When time is restored, money follows because capacity returns. You are not just getting money, you are getting margin. You are getting clarity. You are getting breath again. And wealth, when it comes, will not be for indulgence. It will be assigned, weaponized. You are being positioned as a kingdom financier, one who funds solutions, not just consumes blessings. Isaiah 60 speaks of wealth transferring for the sake of influence and impact. That is why this transition feels serious, weighty, quiet. Public vindication will follow, but it will not lead. Psalm 23 confirms it, a table prepared in the presence of enemies. Prepared first, witnessed second. Your enemies will not stop it, slow it, or understand it. They will only observe. Now, before enforcement completes, there is a transaction required. Not payment, agreement, because verdicts are received, not chased. Where you are right now, align your heart and agree with this declaration, not as wish, but as signature. Say it silently or aloud. I receive my settlement. I accept the verdict. I release stress. I step into provision. This is not emotional affirmation. This is legal consent. And to seal it in the visible realm, type in the comments, I receive my settlement. Not for engagement, for agreement. Heaven responds to alignment. Stay here. Do not disengage. The eviction order is still being read, because when an eviction order is read, the former occupant often resists, not legally, but emotionally. That is why clarity matters now. Hear this: the enemy's authority over your finances has already expired. Colossians 2:14-15 states the legal basis. The record of debt that stood against you has been canceled, nailed, disarmed, made a public spectacle. This is not a quiet dismissal. This is public demotion. What you are feeling right now, the mix of relief and alertness, that is confirmation. That is what happens when jurisdiction shifts. When something that once controlled you no longer has the right to stay. And this is where many people miss it. They think relief must come loudly, dramatically. But in court, enforcement often begins quietly. A lien is released, a freeze is lifted, a delay dissolves. Then movement follows. Within the next 72 hours, watch for subtle changes. A bill that resolves without panic. A conversation that goes smoother than expected. An idea that lands with clarity instead of confusion. These are not small signs. These are proof of access, because access has been restored. Psalm 24:1 declares ownership, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. If ownership is established, then access is regulated by permission, not effort. And permission has just been granted. Now the court addresses compensation. Sevenfold restitution is not symbolic multiplication. It is comprehensive recovery. It means what was lost returns in ways that cover multiple dimensions. Money, time, opportunity, confidence, momentum. You lost peace, peace returns with interest. You lost years. Time compresses. You lost confidence, authority replaces hesitation. This is why you will begin to move faster without rushing. You will make decisions without fear. You will rest without guilt, because fear is removed when threat is neutralized. Let this be clear, your financial stress was never meant to be your teacher. It was an intruder, and intruders are removed, not studied. Now hear the contrast clearly. In the natural realm, they will say recession, inflation, rising costs, scarcity, tightening, delay. These are facts of a system that does not know your covenant. But in the spiritual realm, there is no shortage of supply. There is only timing and trust. And Ecclesiastes 3 confirms timing is assigned. Not random. Your timing has shifted. What was stalled is now expedited. What was delayed is now approved. What was denied is now overturned. Summary judgment has been issued in your favor, and because double jeopardy applies in the courts of heaven, the enemy cannot retry this case. What has been ruled cannot be relitigated. This season of lack cannot legally return. Now listen closely. Protection is part of the verdict. When provision increases, pressure often attempts to follow. But Psalm 91 is invoked as a restraining order. No harm, no plague, no sudden loss. The blessing will not come with anxiety attached. Your harvest will be protected. That is why it matters that you stay aligned, stay connected, stay aware, not fearful, aware. Because awareness is stewardship. This channel is not content, it is covering. Subscribing is not about numbers. It is about positioning yourself among a remnant that understands how to hold increase without losing peace. And when this provision begins to show, and it will, the enemy will attempt distraction. That is why you are being directed to the next word of instruction. Not because you lack faith, but because you are entering stewardship. Now, as enforcement concludes, we finalize with prayer. Not a plea, a declaration. Agree with this quietly or aloud. By the authority of heaven, I receive the verdict rendered on my behalf. I release every form of financial stress, anxiety, and delay. I accept restitution for what was stolen. I step into provision without fear. I steward increase with wisdom. I walk in peace as my portion. Let every open door remain open. Let every closed door remain sealed. I receive my settlement now. Amen. It is done. Stay expectant. Stay steady. Stay aligned. The case is closed. And even after a case is closed, enforcement continues. That is how courts work. A verdict is spoken once, but its effects unfold over time. So do not be surprised if in the next 3 days, your environment begins to rearrange itself. People changing their tone, opportunities resurfacing, access reopening where it was once blocked. This is not coincidence. This is compliance. Heaven is enforcing what was ruled. Psalm 37:23 states that the steps of the righteous are ordered. Ordered is a legal term. It means sequenced, structured, authorized. Nothing you walk into next is accidental. Even the detours will serve the outcome. You may feel prompted to revisit something you walked away from. A conversation, an application, a plan you paused. Do not resist that nudge. It is not regression. It is retrieval. God often uses familiar doors to deliver unfamiliar increase. And understand this clearly: when financial stress ends, identity shifts. You are not just receiving provision, you are stepping into responsibility. That is why this blessing comes with instruction. Wealth in the kingdom is not indulgence. It is influence. It is leverage. It is ammunition against lack, not just for you, but for others connected to your obedience. Deuteronomy 8:18 confirms it. Power to get wealth is given for purpose. That is why your increase will not drain you. It will steady you. You will notice that your reactions change. Bills will no longer trigger panic. Conversations about money will no longer heighten your chest. Planning will feel safe again. Sleep will come easier. These are signs of restored dominion. And if doubt tries to whisper, remind it of the record. Proverbs 6:31 is still on file. When the thief is caught, restitution is required, not negotiated. Required. This is not charity. This is justice. Now there is one final act of agreement that seals enforcement. Not because God needs it, but because you do. Agreement is how humans align with divine rulings. Type this in the comments not as a comment, but as a signature: I receive my settlement. This is not engagement. This is consent. This is you acknowledging receipt. And if you have not already, position yourself here. Subscribe. Not for content, for continuity. Because consistency protects harvest, and the enemy targets inconsistency. There is a reason you are being warned now. When blessings arrive, distraction follows. When provision increases, misalignment tries to slip in. That is why you are being directed to the next instruction. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Remember this: what God gives, He intends to keep. And what He keeps, He teaches you how to steward. So stay alert, not anxious. Expectant, not obsessive. Grateful, not guilty. And as you move forward, carry this final covering. May clarity guard your mind. May discipline protect your resources. May generosity open new channels. May peace anchor every decision. May increase locate you repeatedly, sustainably, and without sorrow. This word stands. This verdict holds. This season is over. Go in peace. Provision has already been released. And as that peace settles, understand this peace is evidence. Anxiety cannot coexist where jurisdiction has shifted. The moment fear lifts, it confirms that authority has changed hands. So hear this clearly, because this is the enforcement notice. Within the next 72 hours, tangible relief will manifest. Not symbolic, not imagined. Tangible. A bill resolved. A resource released. A delay lifted. A message received. Heaven does not announce verdicts without producing receipts. Psalm 66:12 declares, "We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out into a wealthy place." That phrase is not poetic. It is positional. A wealthy place is a jurisdiction where lack no longer has legal standing. You have crossed into that place. And because courts operate on record, let it be stated again every night: you lost sleep is accounted for. Psalm 56:8 confirms it. God keeps count of your tossings. That means time itself is a witness in your case. Lost hours, lost years, delayed seasons. None of it vanished. It was preserved for restitution. This is why the relief may feel sudden. It is not sudden. It is cumulative. What was delayed is now accelerated. Do not be startled if what you expected to take months resolves in days. Acceleration is a hallmark of divine judgment. Joel 2:25 establishes precedent. I will restore the years. Years do not restore slowly. They restore decisively. And when it happens, resist the urge to explain yourself to those who doubted you. Vindication does not require commentary. Psalm 23 already settled that. A table prepared, in the presence, not in private. Let success speak. If resistance appears, do not panic. Resistance is confirmation that eviction is underway. When tenants are removed, there is noise, but noise does not reverse orders. It only proves enforcement. Remain calm. Calm is courtroom confidence. Now agree with this final declaration, whether aloud or in your spirit. By divine authority, I accept the verdict. I renounce lack, fear, and delay. I receive provision without sorrow. I steward increase with wisdom. I walk in peace, clarity, and discipline. What was stolen is restored. What was delayed is released. What was closed is reopened. And what begins now cannot be reversed. In Jesus' name, amen. This matter is concluded. Stay aligned. Stay grateful. Stay watchful. Your financial stress has reached its legal end.